your host, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrack. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Lose, Strike King Lures, Bass Cat Boats, Ducket Fishing, Spro, AFCO, Sunline, and TH Marine. BTL coming at you. Good Wednesday, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, kind of an unusual show today a little bit.
Yeah, I walked in and Jeffrey's
I was like, no. We're going to have John Cruz on, and we were scheduled to have him on at 8:45 Central Time, but he texted me yesterday and he goes, dude, I forgot I have a doctor's appointment. So I came in to the studio early, 7:30, because he's on Eastern Time, and recorded an interview with John, kind of about his classic performance, and really off to a great start to the season, man.
Yeah, great finish at the Classic, a second place finish there to kick things off at the Elite Series season. You know, he was he believed he was the most tenured angler in the Classic.
He was
he not?
He was.
So I don't know.
12th Classic.
I don't know what you interviewed him about in the interview since I was on my way driving.
Well, no, it was cool because he showed some of the baits that he used and talked about. We broke down kind of all 3 days and good stuff. So we will get to that after the break. I want to let everybody know, part of the reason that I really like walking through the outdoor show at the Classic is I see people I haven't seen for a long time, but also I see new people that I want to get on the show. And I want to let everybody know, and I cannot find, I know I have it, I cannot find the guy's card. I do not remember his name, but he is the head guy over the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority, that manages all of the aquatic vegetation. And there's been quite the discussion about, the TVA is killing the grass, dropping pellets. I've heard stories of helicopters and all kinds of stuff. He wants to come on the show late March, early April, and really kind of straighten everything out.
Basically, he's at the center of the, I guess, fight. You call it a fight between?
It's kind of a controversy.
Because
I mean, you would think in this day and age with these things right here, cell phones, that somebody would have video of the helicopters flying over.
Right. But basically, he's at the center. On one side, you have homeowners and recreational boaters, especially waterfront homeowners, who say, hey, I can't use my docks, I can't use my slips because of all this vegetation. My grandkids can't swim because they're getting hydrilla all over them.
Yeah.
We need to get this stuff out so we can enjoy the water in our waterfront. Then you have the fishermen on the other side that are saying, hey, you know, we need as much grass in here for the health of the fish population to protect the spawners. So he's got to somehow create a compromise to where the anglers have the vegetation and the fishery is healthy, while at the same time allowing the homeowners and recreational anglers that are not fishing to enjoy the fishery without the vegetation.
So he is going to make an appearance on the show here in a couple weeks or two and really kind of lay everything out and let the public know exactly what the plan is and what they've been doing and what they're going to do as far as that whole grass situation. All right, the second thing, there was something that was really cool, and I don't know if you saw this, Matt, but in the upper tier of where Zona and Tommy Sanders and Davey Height was doing the live stuff, there was an area that they actually kind of created, I don't know what to call it, a museum. Is that a good term for it?
It was kind of like a mobile history of it included the history of bass, but mainly the classic winner, starting with Bobby Murray all the way through. And it was museum style, to where you started on one end. They had a bunch of different memorabilia, Ray Scott's,
it was really,
jackets,
really cool.
hats, stuff like that. And it started there and went all the way through Odd Defoe's win last year. And you
very
kind of
cool.
like a timeline.
It was very cool. And there was an event that was taking place in this area, and it caught my attention. And it was Coach Mason, I believe Mason is his name, for Bethel University, actually had a signing of 7 anglers in that area during the show. And it was really cool. You know, the friends and family were there and everything. So I was like, aha, here is my opportunity.
High school kids signing to go to college at
That is
Bethel.
correct.
Okay.
At Bethel. So I spent about 30 minutes talking to Coach Mason, and he's going to come on the show. And Matt, I got a lot of clarity on what I thought went on from a scholarship standpoint when it comes to kids in high school fishing going into college. Crystal clear now.
So is he going to come on and talk about it?
He's going to come on and talk about it.
That's a perfect segue.
All right.
Because there was some controversy that went down just prior to the Classic, which we weren't able to talk about since we didn't have shows Classic week, in the FLW College Fishing National Championship. Have you heard about this?
Set it up.
Stephen F. Austin won. Hank Harrison and Ethan Legare, 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 won. But there's an interesting quote here, and this kind of leads us into the story and the discussion we'll have.
All right.
It's honestly a lot of mixed feelings right now, said Legare. It doesn't feel like a true win, but at the end of the day, that's what it's classified as, and we're pretty excited about it. So basically, here's what happened, Mark. And I've talked to several collegiate anglers, several people who work with different organizations. I fish collegiately.
Yeah.
So basically, Bethel, or not Bethel, McHenry.
Yes.
Brought the most weight to the scales. And they were leading, I guess, the tournament and logistics. Basically, they had a camera with them the entire day.
Right.
They catch a fish on the final day. They're fighting the fish, and the line breaks. But it doesn't break at the lure. It breaks in the reel, somewhere up to where there was a long tag end.
Right.
They weren't able to immediately relocate it.
All right.
And they were fishing a jig, I believe, or some lure.
Well, that's good. At least it wasn't a hubcap. All right, keep going.
About an hour later, they're still fishing through that area.
Did they leave the area?
I don't know.
Okay.
They're fishing through that area. Kid makes a cast. Got one. Comes up, and it's the fishing line that had broken off an hour before.
The same fish.
They take the fishing line that is attached to the lure, not attached to the fish, and then they hand line the rest of the fishing line in, and there's the lure that they had broken off before, and it was the fish they'd broken off before.
All righty.
So they keep it.
Okay.
They weigh it in. And the tournament director had been aware of this before, from my understanding, what I have been told. I have not spoken to the tournament director for FLW, but he allowed with a camera guy in there this whole time, knew this whole thing was going on, had allowed this process to continue, allowed McHenry to be crowned. They got the big trophies, everything like that. And then they come off stage, and he said, so tell me what happened. Again, and once they explain it, he's like, nah, your weight's DQ'd from day 3. So then they had to go back and give the crown to someone else 5 minutes after they had crowned McHenry, who had a camera in their boat the entire day, knew what had gone on, and then they allowed him to be crowned. And then they turned around and gave it to SFA afterwards. And in the article, it says that... Here's what it says in the article. As the weigh-in concluded, it originally appeared as McHenry team of Nathan Doty and Jacob Lewis were winners. It was later deemed, however, that the pair had inadvertently broken rule number 12, which states in parts that all fish must be caught in a conventional sporting manner, and their day's catch was disqualified. The team broke off a bass and approximately an hour later snagged the line. They pulled in the line, which had the bass that they believed to be the one they had broken off, hooked to a lure that they believed to be the original lure. There is no way, however, to know if the fish on the line was the original fish that broke off.
Wait a minute.
Nor was the fish hooked with a rod and reel in a conventional sporting manner when it was brought into the boat. Thus, their catch was disqualified, and they ended up finishing in 8th place.
Because they hand lined.
So that's a bunch of BS. Obviously, it was the fish that had broken off with that, but probably based on the people that I have talked to, handled very poorly at the weigh-in. And I feel bad for those kids, but it also kind of brought up a deal, what is the eventual sporting manner? What is it? Is it? And I was talking with you about this before, which is like a continuation play. So, you know, I talked to Bass, and their rule is as long as, you know, because heck, you look at the studio right here, and there's Iaconelli jumping in after his line breaks to grab the line to get the fish in, and that counts. How many times does a fish come off as it's going into the net and you scoop down and get it? So what, you know, what counts, what isn't, how far is too long afterwards to where, and the way it reads in Bass, and it does not read this way in the FLW rule book, is as long as you maintain sight of the line, you can chase that sucker around for 2 hours. As long as you maintain sight of the line.
They didn't maintain sight, though.
Yeah, they had lost sight. But that's in Bass.
Okay.
And then you can, you know, catch it and hand line it in. Yeah. We've seen guys chase, you know, line around the lake before.
Yeah, we have.
Especially braid, shallow water and stuff. But, yeah, that's a tough one because that is the national championship. I remember back in 2008, I feel like Chip Porcher and I were kind of robbed of a national championship because of a jackass striper fisherman who was and if like you can't tell,
you were on his spot, man.
If you can't tell,
you're a little bitter about that.
12 years, 13 years later, still sticks in my craw. I still intensely dislike that gentleman.
Yeah. So was this the right thing, man?
Poor kids.
Was this the right thing to do?
It sounds like it was the right decision was made in proper timing.
Should they have just not counted that bass? Because did they get DQ'd for the
just their day? Just that day, they ended up finishing.
They should have just threw that fish out and said,
if you knew which fish it was, then heck, if they're saying you can't even determine that was the line and lure, then how are they going to determine what the bass is? Yeah. But the kids should have known the rules 100%. Now I understand it's college kids. I fish college, I know, but technically something should have gone off that said, yeah, we better check on this one before we throw it in the old box. And then with the camera guy in the boat and multiple hours between this happens and the weigh-in, should never have given the kids the trophies at the end.
Yeah.
I feel bad for everyone involved.
So when that happened, they should have called the tournament director and said, hey, here's the situation that took place.
Yes. Or the camera operator should have said something immediately to the tournament director or those kids. But yeah, it didn't sound like it was handled good at the end. And there's a lot of controversy over this on the social media aspect side of it. We actually had some collegiate anglers ask if we were going to broach this subject.
Yeah.
So just an interesting thing that happened in the world of fishing that was overshadowed by the Bassmaster Classic. But, I mean, congratulations to Stephen F. Austin.
That is a bad deal.
Now they get to fish in the cup next. Oh, wait. No, they don't.
Oh, there you go. Got to bring that up again. Jeez. All right. Somebody suggested also they could have just eliminated their largest fish.
Yes.
And went down that path.
I don't know how that reads in the rules there for FLW.
It's a bad deal, man.
I mean, that's one of those rule deals that comes up, like every 5 years?
Maybe not even that quickly. It's just one of those weird
because
deals.
I was telling you, I got a buddy who was fishing a tournament, and he was cranking a clay point. And he said, I got one. Just a club tournament. He said, I have wrangled a bass. I said, go ahead and get the net for me, to his co-angler. And the co-angler gets the net, and he's fighting this fish, and everything's normal. And he brings it up, and all of a sudden he's still fighting the fish, but his crankbait's out of the water. And what had happened was he was dredging the bottom with his crankbait.
Yeah.
And someone had been throwing a Carolina rig in the vicinity at some point recently, broken off a fish on a Carolina rig above the leader, and his crankbait, the back treble hook of his crankbait, had somehow managed to finagle its way into the barrel swivel of the broken off Carolina rig. So you had a fish with the Carolina rig attached to a swivel, attached to the hook, attached to the crankbait, attached to his line.
Yeah.
He did not keep that fish.
Huh. Okay. How big was it?
Keeper.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're fishing in Illinois and it's a keeper, it's a big one, Mark.
No, you're right. That's a good point. Very good point. All right. A couple other things real quick. When I left yesterday, we had a discussion about the situation about Kevin Van Dam being on stage, 50th anniversary and all that and everything. And I want to let everybody know I did speak to a management person at Bass.
As did I.
And I also
Different management people.
Yeah, and I also spoke to Kevin Van Dam.
You did?
I did. And folks, here's what it boils down to. It was a scheduling issue. All right. Was the opportunity for Kevin to be on that stage given to him by Bass? The answer is yes. And Kevin could not do it at first because of he plans, and everything is scheduled out months in advance, and it just did not work out based upon his schedule. And then he tried to do some things to switch it around, but it was too late because of everything that needs to be done from a production standpoint. So the bottom line is yes, Bass did extend an invitation to Kevin to be on that stage for the decades.
And he wasn't able to do it.
And he just wasn't able to do it because of his schedule. And he tried, a little bit before, not like the day of is what I'm saying. I mean, there was a period of time there where he tried to make some things happen to where he could do it, but it just didn't work out. And that's it. I mean, he was... the conversation I had with Kevin, he was very appreciative and realizes the importance of what Bass means to him and his career, and the importance and the significance of all of his classic wins. There was nothing more to it than just a scheduling issue that just couldn't get worked out.
There were other anglers, at least one who was in contacted to be a part of that as well.
Yeah.
And did not return calls. So
yep.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. So we'll see. Kevin's schedule is pretty rocking, and I did invite him to come on the show, and he said when things kind of settle down a little bit, that yes, he has no problem coming on the show.
I mean, it sucks that he wasn't able to do it, but also, I mean, we got to book KVD for a show several months in advance.
Yeah.
So it also depends on how long in advance this was brought to him.
Yeah.
And yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm saying if you ask him a month in advance, the dude's probably already got a schedule set for what's going on during the Classic. If you ask him 3 or 4 months in advance if this is going down, then he really doesn't have an excuse.
Yeah.
So, and we don't know what the timing was on that as far as when he was asked and all this stuff. So, I mean, I could see it being, man, you should have asked him earlier. Yeah. And I also can see it being, man, you should have freaking adjusted your schedule to be on that stage on Sunday.
Yeah.
I see it. I can see it both ways. Can you not?
Oh, I agree.
And to do whatever it takes quickly to do that.
But the point of the matter is we didn't know whether or not the invitation was extended or whether or not that Kevin rejected it. We found the answers out to that question, of which, yes, Bass did extend the invitation to Kevin, and Kevin tried to do what he could to make it work after initially saying that, he can't do it. I can't do it because of my schedule. And then he tried to switch things around and do it was necessary, but
you got to have some lead time. They had a video package for each one of those anglers.
Yeah.
And it's not like they brought out guys who weren't good representatives of the decade.
No, nothing against those guys at all. It's just there is a lot of work production-wise that goes into that entire presentation that is displayed at the Classic.
Also found out, Ott came out and did the Classic handoff and also was the representative for the 2000, because it was 2019.
Yeah.
But the thing was he wasn't wearing his jersey.
And he did that on his own.
That was Ott's decision, not Bass's decision, not to wear the jersey. So I'm assuming, based on what I've been told by the representative Bass, he could have gone out there with the MLF logo on his jersey and handed it off, but Ott just thought, at the Bassmaster Classic, BASS, went with the polo.
Yeah. And kudos to him for doing that.
Absolutely.
Totally on him, and he is a class act. And if you haven't seen or watched the 20 Feet Deep documentary, toward the end when we filmed the Champions Toast, the conversation that takes place between Bruce Aiken and Ott Defo at the end prior to the final toast is really, really cool.
A lot of controversy going on then on a Wednesday. Clearing up controversy,
yeah,
I guess.
I mean, it's pretty cool that we were able, that's kind of how we roll, Matthew, to be able to get the right people, obviously the key people in that situation, and more or less get it straightened out.
Yep.
All right.
Good job.
What else? And then we'll take a break and get to the John
fishing
Hughes.
Is about to get started again. You have
At
about
the Chick.
7
and Fork.
Yeah, 7 or 8 days before the Elite Series, the rescheduled Lake Chickamauga returns. And there's a guy with a decision. Are we going to have him on before or after? Can we chat a little bit about Mr. Cox?
Well, we mentioned yesterday on the show that he is evaluating his opportunities based upon the conversation that we had on one of our shows. I mean, he said that.
That's going to be the big thing coming up. Is Tripp or is who's it, Daniel Fennell now over there? Or who's the FLW's
I don't know.
tournament director going to allow him to fish the Elite Series and the Tour in the same day? Will he try to do that? Will he have to pick? Will he fish one day with one day with the other? John Cox is evaluating his decision. So at the same time, we've got the FLW Tour on Martin, the Elite Series on Chickamauga, and the BPT on Fork.
A lot going on, man. Don't like it. I've said it a zillion times. I wish everybody had their own forefront as far as showcasing what they can do without any conflict with any other organization. But not going to happen. A lot for us to talk about, though, my friend.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to take a break. Then we'll come back with the John Cruz interview that I did this morning. So everybody stay tuned right here on a Wednesday.
The ultimate fishing system starts with Lowrance HDS Live. Upgrade to HDS Live with a Ghost trolling motor, live sight transducer, or Structure Scan 3D, and get up to $500 cash back.
Yeah, you care about gear ratios, inches per turn, and ball bearings, but most importantly, you want reliability and dependability in the equipment you use. Luz doesn't cut corners when it comes to the gear they build. The new Speed Spool LFS is the best $99 reel in the market. Go see for yourself.
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
Kevin, what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm just filling in for Billy.
I need a 660 shad crankbaits in the Series 5 model.
We're out.
You're not out. You got all kinds of them right there.
We're out.
Kevin, I need 6.
Have a lollipop.
I do not want a lollipop.
Have a lollipop.
Do you have it in sexy shad color?
At Duckett Fishing, we have assembled the top pros in the country to help us design rods to give you a competitive advantage. Castability, strength, durability, action, sensitivity, weight and balance, and consistency. Combine that with the best warranty in the industry, and you have rods that are pro-driven.
Duckett Fishing, pro-driven.
I want to share to you a new product we got coming out from Sunline. This is the FC leader size spools that we have now. We've gotten a lot of requests for this. A lot of you guys use fluorocarbon for leaders only, myself included. And one of the problems you have is when you have a 200-yard spool, that might last you 2, 3, 4 years. You might even lose it before you even get done with the spool. So we've gone to a little smaller spool. These are 50-yard spool sizes. You know, that way you're not holding your line on forever. You can keep your line fresh, use it when you can, stores real easily in the boat. We got all of our popular line sizes that you're used to with our Sniper from 5 to 14 pound. If you guys are looking for a line that you're only tying for a leader, go check out Sunline FC Leader 100% fluorocarbon and give it a try.
Blue Water by TH Marine, offering LED lighting solutions for your boat, trailer, truck, ATV, and so much more. Engineered and built to be rugged with waterproof and submersible options. Designed for easy installation, Blue Water is available in a variety of colors and styles. All backed by a limited lifetime warranty. Blue Water by TH Marine.
The name SPRO says it all. SPRO stands for Sports Professionals. When you look at the pro staff that SPRO has brought on board over the past 15 years, it's been pretty incredible. I mean, one got it just then. From the development of the rock crawler to the McStick, from the Fat Papa to the Little John series, when you tie a SPRO bait on, you know it's been designed by a professional to get the job done.
While I travel the country on the Bassmaster Elite Series, I simply can't let the weather be the reason I don't win $100,000. That's why I use AFCO clothing to keep me warm, dry, and protected from whatever Mother Nature wants to throw at me. My season depends on it. My career depends on it. AFCO, any fish, any water.
All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks.
Why?
Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
The Big Bite Baits Kamikaze Swim On is a very unique bait, and it's got a full body but with ribs to give it a bigger profile but not more plastic. It's got a jointed tail that gives it a lot of action, as well as this up and down crawl type trail with holes and ribs in it, so it creates a bubble trail almost. This bait is supposed to be fished upside down or vertical like this on a great for a chatterbait. I prefer it on a swim jig as well, but you can also cut it down and put it on the back of a finesse jig. You know, flip it around for some spotted bass or flipping docks. Anytime you want a small, compact, you know, little trailer for it, this is great for it. So check out the full lineup of swim-ons at bigbitebaits.com.
All right, we are back on a Wednesday, wrapping up the week. Want to remind everybody, on Monday, Brad Hallman going to be in studio. Him and Matthew are going to talk about this new bait that they've been working on.
It's cool. It's almost done. I mean, it is done. It's just they got to do like the single mold, and then they pour them and send them to Brad, and Brad's like, yeah, that's it. And then boom.
All right.
And then the BTL guys will probably get the first crack at it.
All right, a lot of stuff going on, man. A lot of stuff going on. And then 3 tournaments, and still working on guests for next week. It's kind of tough when everything is taking place in the world of professional tournament fishing. All right, this morning I conducted an interview with John Cruz, finished 6th in the Bassmaster Classic, off to a great start. And I tried to think of some of the stuff that the fans would want to know, a lot of stuff that he used at the Classic he talks about. So I think we're ready to roll, Matthew.
All right.
All right. Here's the interview with John Cruz. All right. We welcome to the show now Mr. John Cruz. John, welcome to BTL, and thanks for taking time out, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, quite a good week last week. I know you finished in 6th, but man, a pretty good performance at the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah, I appreciated it. You know, I felt like I put myself with a chance to win it on the last day, which I had not done in the past in the 11 other tries. And then on the last day, I went out and found a way to catch a limit pretty early. And I knew that was not going to be the way to win the tournament. So then I spent the rest of the day hunting and pecking, trying to catch big ones. I caught one big one, and I feel like if I'd have just landed in the right area, you know, you never know what could have happened. But so looking back on it, I have no regrets, and I feel like I did what I had to do to try to win the tournament.
All right, I want to go back, and I kind of want to break down all 3 days. Your first day was your best day, 21-8. What was your plan going into that day, and did you execute the plan to the T, or was it just a matter of being in the right place at the right time?
It was mostly on the latter part. I had a couple different patterns that were going on that I had established in practice, and the first area that I stopped on, I didn't get any bites. I tried a couple different tactics and fished that area. And then I went to that area where I caught the majority of my fish, and it was just where I'd gotten a couple bites out on a milfoil flat out from some pad stems, you know, kind of right where the grass breaks off, you know, one of those areas where the fish start to just move up. I caught 2 on 2 casts there on Wednesday. I figured I could go there and at least catch a couple keepers. I went there early and man, they were just biting, and it didn't take long to catch probably 15 to 16 pounds, and I had 2 5-pounders, two of the right ones. And after that, I just hunted and pecked around the rest of the day. I caught one about 3 3/4 later on flipping a dock with a mini flip jig, and then after that, a little bit later, I caught another good one on a jackhammer, and that called me up to that 21-8 on the first day.
All right, day 2, your weight went down 16-11. What was the characteristics about day 2?
Yeah, I went back to that milfoil area, and I never had a bite, not even a tap. Yeah, it just I just ran into one of those wolf packs, and they dispersed or whatever, and you know, it could very well have been a timing deal, and I never went back to that area. So the second day I left out of there, hit 2 or 3 other areas, and then about mid-morning I landed on a little bit deeper area. It was a milfoil, not milfoil. It was a old road bed, and man, they were on it, and I fished it for probably 10 or 15 minutes, and didn't have a bite. And yes, you know, I didn't feel like I was fishing it effectively. So then I picked up the old mini flip, the 1/2-ounce bruiser. And I picked that up, made it 1 cast out there, pulled it about 3 feet, and then thump. I felt a thump. I caught a 3-pounder. I said, okay, there's more fish here, and then I made another bait adjustment. I put a different crankbait on, one that ran a little bit deeper. It was a Spro Little John Baby DD. I put that on in citrus shad color, threw that out there, and then caught 3 on 3 casts pretty quick. And then I lost one, and then had another one hit it. And they just started biting funny after that. And then I went back to the jig and caught 4 or 5 more, and ended up culling up to that weight that I had, 16-10, I think it was. And I thought, okay, well, I got me a good limit, and I'll just go hunt around the rest of the day and cull up. Well, I hunted around and fished around. I caught a few keepers the rest of the day, but nothing that ended up helping me.
Wow. All right. And then day 3, obviously Hank Cherry's got a pretty good lead. What was the plan going into day 3?
I was just going to fish areas that I thought might have the potential for big ones. And so I started on that area where I caught the 21 pounds the first day, or, you know, I caught those 2 5s in part of that bag. I fished around there. I never had a bite. And then over off in the distance, probably a half mile away, I could see where there were some birds working, not one particular spot, but working kind of an area, you know, terns, seagulls, whatever they were. And I could see them working, and I said, man, there's got to be some bait over there in that area. So I ran over there. I'd never fished that vicinity of of the lake in my life. I've ran over there, and as I was fishing through, I fished for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then a fish blew up about 20 yards from me through the jackhammer over there, caught it, small keeper. So then I hunted and pecked around there for the rest of for the next hour, and ended up catching a limit there. But they would probably weighed about 11 or 12 pounds, not the ones you need to win the Classic when you're 7 pounds behind the leader. So I'd said, okay, that's enough of that. I need to just spend the rest. Now I've got a limit. Don't have to worry about 5. I'm just going to go areas that I think I can catch big ones, and I did it. And I even went back to that road bed just to check it to see if there's anything. I never caught a keeper there. Caught 2 shorts, and then I just ran a bunch of places where I felt like I could get one big one. Places I'd caught big ones in the past. And man, I never had a bite until later in the afternoon. I caught that 6'10" on a chatterbait with the missile baits quiver trailer on the back, and then I thought, okay, now I'm onto something a little bit here. I bounced around, and that kind of fizzled out. No more keepers, no more bites on that, and then next thing I know, it was 3 o'clock, and I had time to check in.
What are your thoughts on the characteristic of Guntersville this year, John? Because Hank Cherry was the only guy that averaged 20 pounds a day in a pretty doggone good field. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Guntersville, I think with all the rain and all that water that's been flushing through the system, it's not let the lake, I don't know the best term, it's like settle down. And a lot of places around the country in the Southeast, I feel like are kind of the same way. They've been flushed through either with water, high water, it comes back down, high water comes back down, or just ripping crazy current. And the lake's not really settled down. Guntersville, the lake really wasn't dirty, but it wasn't normal colored. It was a little, and I think part of that was the wind as well, dirtied up a number of areas. I think you would have, if the lake was calmer as far as the wind goes, and not so much of it was dirtied up, you'd definitely see a lot more 20-pound stringers. Not to say that you see a lot of high 20s, but you'd see more 20, 21, 22, stuff like that, to where guys could settle into a couple areas where the water was stable and catch so many of those 4-pounders that are in Guntersville.
I'm curious, at the press conference on the final day, did you catch yourself sitting there when you were listening to what, or I don't know if you heard it, what Hank was talking about, the area that he caught him in and what he was doing? He was 5 minutes from the takeoff. Did that kind of surprise you?
Not at all. I mean, I was well aware of that area and what the potential is there, but in the past, it had never held up. At the last Classic, the one that Randy won in 2014, Kelly J caught, I think, 23 pounds in that vicinity on the first day of the tournament, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Randall Tharp was using part of that causeway in his bag before he had all of his motor issues and whatnot. But Kelly J had problems the second and the third day catching enough fish to keep up, to keep going, and I think a lot of it had to do with the boat, the boat traffic, the pressure. They were nipping at the bait. He was saying he lost, an 8 and a couple of 6s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this was from that time, and I remembered all that, and I never even practiced on it. I never even practiced that vicinity, that area, because I thought that's what was going to happen. And apparently everybody else in the field thought the same thing except for Hank Cherry.
I know. That's just too bizarre.
Yeah, it really was. And I mean, even though I guess he kind of had it to himself, I'm still surprised that it held up for 3 days. I really am. Hank's probably surprised it held up for 3 days too. I think he had a couple other backup patterns. I think he was going to fish some docks and a few other things that he thought he would have in his pocket if he needed it. And he caught fish doing that, but he didn't really need them. He had what he had, and that the deal produced. And I talked to a friend of mine that lives there in Browns Creek yesterday, and he said that he loves to fish the causeway, but he never gets the opportunity to. because the locals there's always a local on, one side or the other, because it's, and he said that he was surprised that there was not a ton of locals out there just beating it to oblivion like they normally do.
Yeah.
And he thought that was a big factor as well, is that, the local pressure for that Classic week was backed off in that area. And so those fish, that's probably the reason that it held up for 3 days, is because it wasn't get the local pounding that it normally does.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird, 2 Classics, 1 on community holes, basically, on the riprap.
Yeah, that happens quite a bit. This time of year, on Guntersville. This year, I feel like that the fish were not near as like packed on those causeways as they were in 2014. There's 10, 20 times as much grass. There is so much more grass in Guntersville now than in 2014, that the fish really, you don't have to fish the causeways. Back then, in 14, you almost had to fish the causeways.
Yeah.
So it was inevitable. It was going to be one or a combination of, the community stuff, but not this year. And I was a little bit surprised that it did get one off a causeway, but kind of almost solely off a causeway. But that's what happens sometimes. You make your gamble, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. It paid off for Hank though.
Kind of crazy. All right, can you talk a little bit about the areas that you primarily focused on during the week?
Yeah, I had a couple different patterns going on. One of them was a milfoil. I caught a few fish out of some eelgrass, but I felt like if I could find milfoil, I felt like that was holding more fish. And I found a couple areas in different parts of the lake that were milfoil areas, and that's where I caught probably a third of my keepers out of milfoil. And then the other, the one day that bailed me out, the second day, I was off of a road bed, and it was probably 12 to 14 feet of water, and the road bed came up to about 8, somewhere in that range. So that's what kind of bailed me out there. And then a lot of the other fish I was catching were off of docks and wood, wood near docks, and that was a different deal. That was the jig on the road bed, the crankbait and the jig, and then the docks was mainly the jig. And then out of the milfoil and all the grass, that was the old chatter wagon, if you can see it on here.
Yeah.
This is the jackhammer with their missile baits quiver on the back. That was what, there's teeth marks all over the head and the blade of this thing. But that was one of the ones I was using. I was using that fire crawl, that bright orange one.
Yeah.
I caught that big one the last day on that. And then anytime the water was kind of murky looking, I would use that. If the water was a little clearer, when we had sun, I would use this color. I think it's one of Brett Height's colors. I don't even know what color it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty though. It's green and red, and then I had the D-bomb on the back of the jig, just a regular D-bomb. Cut it down, about cut it in half, and stuck it on there.
Very cool. Did you make a long run? Was it close to the takeoff? What's the scoop on that?
I fished all over the lake, and I tried not to run around too much. I probably ran around a little too much, but I caught some of my fish in North Saudi and Roseberry, and then down 2 or 3 areas between there and the big bridge. I caught some fish in All Reds area, and I caught some fish in Seabolds. So those were kind of the areas that I fished. I didn't really spend any time in the tournament in Browns or below, or in Spring Creek or Town Creek, but those were kind of the main areas that I spent my time.
All right. I know we don't have any instant feedback, but I know somebody's going to want to know what the setup that you use for the jig and for the jackhammer. So what's the setup that you use for both of those?
Yeah, for the mini flip, it's a 1/2 ounce Missile Jigs mini flip. It's just in the bruiser color. I had the D, as I mentioned, I had the D-bomb on the back. I had Sunline 20-pound shooter fluorocarbon. That line is very supple yet really, really strong. So I was sidearm roll casting that and skipping it way up under docks and I had that on a 7.5 foot cash and medium heavy flipping stick with a Daiwa Tatula 100 reel, and that was the deal on the jig. On the jackhammer, I was using a Cashin 7'5". This is the rod right here. It's a 7'5" Elite Series. They call that their trap rod. It is amazing, and it's just absolutely perfect for throwing a trap, but it's also perfect for throwing a jackhammer in open water, making long casts on big grass flats, reeling it, and then, ripping it out of the grass, and then still being able to catch up with the fish, and yet still having enough backbone. And I had either 18 or 20 pound Sunline Sniper on that for my line, and then the Daiwa Tatula 100. I was using the 7-to-1 reel, because sometimes they whack it and then they just take off running like wildfire, and you got to keep up with them.
All right, man. A couple more questions, and then I'll let you go. Matt and I got into quite the discussion yesterday about this being the 50th Classic, and the crowds. The crowds at the expo were unbelievable. Obviously, you didn't get an opportunity to see that, but it was just wall-to-wall people. The arena, it seems like the 20-plus classics that I've been to, it seems like that people are now coming and then they're leaving because of the length of the weigh-in. I mean, it just seems like it goes on and on and on and on and on. And I think sometimes that the fans that I spoke with, not just an assumption, they become a little agitated or frustrated that it is going so long. So the discussion was, does the weigh-in need to be shorter? Does the field need to be reduced? I mean, what are your thoughts on that, or is it even a big deal at all?
It's hard to go backwards with the field size. I feel like once you grow it, it's easier to grow it than it is to reduce it.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a really tough, who do you cut? That's going to be a really tough one. I think that's just going to be a hard deal to get. And, since it's the Super Bowl, guys don't want to get up there and get shorted. They get up there and they have 1 or 2 fish or something. They still want to get up there and have their time. Now, is there a quicker way to do the weigh-in process? Probably. And I think you're on to the right track there. I didn't go watch the weigh-in or see any parts of it, but I do know that it took a sizable amount of time from start to finish. I mean, it was well over 2 hours to weigh in 50 dudes. And that's to me, that's a long time. And I don't know what the right answer is. I would kind of defer for suggestions, to people like yourself, or the media and the fans that were watching there. What would they just like to see things go quicker? Would they like to see less people? I don't know what they would want, but I would think that, probably just figuring out a way to kind of move things faster would probably be a better suggestion to make it a little more appealing to the fans.
Definitely don't want to take anything away from the guys that have earned their way to the Bassmaster Classic. That is something that they deserve. They deserve that time to showcase, their sponsors and everything else that they have going on. Let me ask you this. It was interesting because after the show yesterday, I got a lot of feedback from fans. That's the suggestion that I made, and I'm not even going to get into it. They said that I was kind of out of my mind. And what shocked me, John, is there were a number of people that would rather see you guys from your first cast till the time that you pull up to the weigh-in and could care less about the weigh-in. In other words, they want to see every single cast that John Cruz makes. I can't imagine having a Bassmaster Classic without a weigh-in in a crowd. To me, that seems foolish.
I think that a lot of sports are evolving in order to basically serve what the fans want to consume, and I think that bass fishing would be crazy to not evolve with what the fans want. I mean, MLF is kind of taken the opposite model, like what you're talking about. They've taken that model and kind of run with it. Their events are not catered in any way to the fans on site. It's all catered to, either the television portion or the internet. So they've kind of gone the opposite the direction, and they're trying like the extreme other side of that model that you're talking about.
Right.
And I think that they have some definite major flaws in that system.
But this is the classic, though, John.
No, I didn't say it was the right way. I just said that it has some major flaws in it. I think that there's got to be some way to continue to evolve. I mean, the way that Ray Scott did it in the 70s is not the way that it needs to happen today. The fans want to consume and see different things. Obviously, the expo is huge, and I feel like that as time goes on, and maybe we'll have some discussions with Bass about ways to kind of morph what's going on and the ways to kind of allow the fans to interact more with the anglers on the water. Not on the water, but from the water, the anglers that fish, to be able to interact with them more on somehow.
All right, man. You're off to a great start, dude. Second place at the SJR, 6th in the Classic, but it's been 10 years since you've held up a blue trophy. Do you ever think about that?
Oh, dude, all the time. I wouldn't say every day. I think about it quite a bit, and sometimes you can't worry about it too much. I just feel like that if you're fishing good, you put yourself in a position for good things to happen. If you're not fishing good, you're scrambling your ass off just to try to make a check,
Yeah.
It just depends on kind of where you are and how your practices go and how you prepare for these events. And I feel like I'm preparing as well as I've ever have, and I'm having some good success, because of it. And I just need to stay on that, and then things can roll. You never know. I mean, I might win 3 events this year, and then it averages out to one every couple of years. So I'm not getting too caught up on, man, I haven't won, I need to force a win. I'm not there. If I go and have 8 top 10s in a row and I don't win one, it just wasn't meant to be for me to win one. I feel like I'm good at having like good last days. It's not like I peter out at the end of the tournament. I feel like you look at the St. Johns River last year, St. Johns River this year, the final days of my events usually go pretty decent. I didn't have a monster bag, but I adapted, the last day of the Classic this year. And so I don't feel like that I've, that's not my track record, is to taper off. Excuse me, my track record is to do decent. So it's not the fact that I'm not a closer or something like that. It's just the stars hadn't lined up for me as much as I'd like.
No, dude, 1.3 million in earnings, over 1.3. And I remember that victory. I was there out on the West Coast. That was so cool. And I remember the photo shoot that we did afterwards, and it was very, very memorable. And I think people are starting to understand how difficult it is to win a blue trophy.
It really is. And there are certain guys that I think their styles just kind of fit what it takes to win on certain bodies of water. Those styles don't match everywhere, because a lot of times those guys will bomb, and just because they gamble, they gamble a little bit more than others, and and their style does not fit for certain bodies of water. So they have their roller coasters, to where I think my style is more of a fish the moment, fish what's in front of you, and I feel like I adapt well from body to water, whether it's Guntersville or St. Johns River or, Smith Lake or wherever the heck we might go, to whereas I feel like I can, be in contention or stay up there pretty much anywhere we go. But then I don't, put myself in an all-in position where, I say, you know what, I'm flipping this jig all day, and, I'm going to get 5 good ones on it. And I just don't do that. If I go for 2 hours without a bite on something, I'm not going to die with it. I'm gonna try to figure out what they are biting and try that. And sometimes that does not lend itself as well to wins. But I feel like I minimize the bombs as much as anybody.
All right, quick thoughts on the Chick. What are your thoughts?
I think it's setting up for a very good tournament. Just like you're talking about, the Guntersville underperformed. Dude, the Chick has been underperforming all spring because they have just been absolutely douched with water in that part of the country.
Yeah.
So the lake is not stabilized, and it's starting to stabilize now. I saw on Michael Neal's Instagram yesterday that in the last 3 days they've weighed an 11 something, and a high 10 in the last 3 days out of his boat dock there in Dayton. And so that bodes well. And dude, those fish look beautiful. They look like giant watermelons, man. And that tells me that those fish are they're looking to move up. They're coming out of that deep water, and they're coming up shallow where they're likely to be caught. And I think it's setting up for having us pretty good event next week.
All right, very cool. Last question, man. How is the bait business?
The bait business is going very well. We launched the Missile Baits Quiver. We have two different sizes. We have the 4.5 over here, and then we have the 6.5 over here. And I designed these for the Neko rig and for Tokyo rig fishing. But man, the more I fish with them, the more different tactics and lures that it does well with. Like on that chatterbait and drop shot and shaky head, Texas rig, all kind of different stuff. So that has really, really taken off. It's resonated well. I mean, Tackle Warehouse is already out of some of the colors. We took a ludicrous amount of quivers down to the Classic to sell through one of our dealers, and we sold more than I thought we were going to sell. We sold out of a few colors. And that was pretty huge, considering how much we took.
Wow.
So the overall the bait business is good, and then new products really help spur sales as well. And I think we hit a home run here with the quivers.
Wow, yeah, they were buying stuff in Alabama, man. That stuff was flying off the shelves at the expo.
Yeah, they're fish heads down there, man. They want to see it. They want to know what's going on, man.
All right, man. Appreciate you taking time out, and best of luck to you at the Chick. Off to a great start of the season, man. Look forward to hopefully having you on the show some more.
Heck yeah, I appreciate it, Mark. Appreciate you working around my schedule and getting me on here. I appreciate you and Matt and Dave and everybody there. Appreciate everything you guys do, and enjoy the entertainments. I do ride down the road and listen to shows here and there. So I enjoy that. That works out well for me.
All right, man. Good luck to you. That's it, folks, right there. John Cruz coming at you. We will be back right after this moment. Hopefully Matt will be in studio. All right, there you have it. Interview with Mr. John Cruz.
He was dialed in. It was interesting what he said. He kind of echoed what I said that a bunch of the guys said in the media room afterwards, which was like, man, we really overthunk this.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting how that works. Your theory, what is your theory? The docks, boat ramps?
BMR squared, bridges, marinas, riprap, and ramps.
Yeah. Bassmaster Classic. Wow. All right, we're going to wrap up the show with, I'm just going to give a little feedback on some of the
feedback. You're giving some feedback on some feedback.
Yeah.
You deserve some feedback
That's
after
all right.
yesterday's debacle, Jeffrey.
No, let me clarify a couple things first, and then we'll get into the comments just real quick on YouTube. The concept that I came up with, folks, you need to realize I am constantly trying to focus on the three things that I mentioned on the show. Taking care of the anglers, taking care of the fans, and taking care of the sponsors. Based upon that, seriously, do we not need to make sure that we're taking care of those three bodies?
Absolutely.
In this industry?
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, what I came up with, is it perfect? Heck, no. But I'm not off my rocker, and I'm actually trying to create something that is better, and I threw it out there, and people thought I was out of my mind.
Can I just read a couple of these because they're hilarious?
Yeah.
Agree. Jeffrey's idea is terrible. There's some good ones on here.
Are you gonna read them?
Well, I'm trying to get to the best one. I disagree with Mark 100% on his new classic format.
Yeah.
I agree with everything Matt said. I'll have whatever Mark is smoking. I agree with Matt 100%.
Yeah.
Van Damme should have been there. Yelling over Pangrag doesn't make the revamp classic idea any better. Mark, you did get some. There were people that agreed with a lot of your elements to it. Now, you're not saying this is the end all be all. You're just throwing out possible suggestions. I've been with you. I've talked to you about this. I mean, you're throwing out but we appreciate the comments and the feedback. Absolutely.
Awesome.
I got some great. One of the. I'm trying to find what's taking me so long is I'm trying to find the one where he called your idea a quote utter and complete dumpster fire.
I love the feedback, man.
But yeah, totally like it. Very educated. We have a very educated fan base.
Yeah.
So
I still stay, and you brought up something yesterday I thought a little bit about as I was driving to teach. That you're right, dude. You're 100% right. The previous classic champ needs to be in there.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yep.
So, did you find it? You never found it?
No, that was what it was. This is a total. Mark's idea is a total complete dumpster fire.
Interesting comment by Cruz. He said, it's really hard to take the field back instead of building it up.
No, I agree.
But at the same time.
But Mark, what you have to understand is with what they're doing with the Angler of the Year payout this year.
Yeah.
I mean, that classic for those anglers is in a way a makeup call. Do you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a different year, but what I'm saying is that money is going away for the Angler of the Year payout this year. Now, I understand they had some discrepancies last year and stuff like that, and the way it all went down.
It wasn't a discrepancy.
They overpaid them.
Yeah, pretty much.
So now they're like, we're going to underpay you this year. Yeah. Anyway, but if you're not going to have a deep Angler of the Year payout, I think having those people in the classic and other people pointed out, which I totally agree with, it's really freaking hard to make the Elite Series.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, you still have to finish in the top half of the Elite Series to make the classic. So even with those 40, I mean, it's 40 guys. And I agree with what some of the people said on there. Yeah, it's long. Yeah, it's drawn out. It's the freaking classic. Everybody's going to get their shake. The excitement's on the final day. This is the way it's done. There's some things that say, why do we do it this way? Because that's the way it's done. Why is Augusta always the same at the Masters with all these stupid rules and all this stuff? Because it's the Masters. This is the classic. Once a year for 2 days, sit through a 3-hour weigh-in, watch the 52 guys roll into their various rap songs that all sound the same after 15 guys weigh in.
Yeah.
Let them say their stuff on the stage, and then enjoy the excitement of the Super Six at the end. As long as the vendors are happy, as long as the fans show up, I mean, I don't think you would have anybody who sat through that weigh-in on the first 2 days and said, my classic experience was horrible. That weigh-in was too long. I think they go home and they go, it was freaking awesome. I got to meet Gerald Swindle at the expo. Yeah. I got to watch Zona do and Sanders do Bass live. Yeah. I got to shake Ronnie Moore's hand. And the weigh-in was a little long. It got kind of boring at the end of the weigh-in.
Yeah.
But it's not like their experience is ruined because it was a long, monotonous weigh-in.
I didn't say that.
No, I'm just voicing that.
Yeah.
And Mercer, I think Mercer does a great job.
Oh.
I really honestly.
Especially when the dude drove around the arena with Skylar Hamilton.
Every day what you have to understand is he's got people in his ear, and you had 90 million things that are going on logistically in this classic to keep it flowing as smooth as it actually did. And then, like Dave pointed out, a lot of the stuff that they do is sponsor related. We didn't have this talk on the show yesterday, did we?
Yeah. No, we didn't.
Okay.
No.
So I talked to Dave on the way home. Dave Rush.
Right.
And he said, dude, he's like, does the Berkeley Cast for Cash make the final day weigh-in longer and kill the vibe? In a way, yeah, but they're paying Bass a lot of money to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So lower the purse, don't have all that stuff, and then don't have the no, that's part of the deal that's in there. Dave he told me yesterday, he said the thing that he always says is like the number one rule of DJing is once you get them dancing, don't hit them with the slow song. You got them on the dance floor, keep them dancing. And he's like, what would happen is you'd get everyone dancing, then you'd hit them with the slow song. So yeah, they had all this, the Yamaha stuff and the Mercury stuff came out and the different boat stuff and the Berkeley stuff, but like That's where the money comes from for this. So yeah, spend your 5 minutes, sit through, watch it, because that's why the Classic is possible. Are these sponsors who are paying this money for these people that they're in front of? Because let's face it, it's the only platform that sponsors have to have this many people with a one-on-one personal interaction. True? You ain't having that at Redcrest. You don't have that at any of the BPTs, and you don't have it at the FLWs.
Dude, I agree.
So
I agree.
If you've got sponsors who want to spend money to put it in front of people, let them freaking put it in front of people.
Well, here, somebody brought up a good point from an email that I received from a fan is most of the eyeballs on what is taking place is on the live.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, the weigh-in is just a small part of positioning the sponsors that all the other crap that takes place. He used the word crap. All the other crap that takes place during the weigh-in. He said, take those sponsors, if they're paying the big money, and position them in a much better position to where the weigh-in goes a lot smoother.
Also, I don't think it would have been as long or seemed as long had Hank Cherry not been up by 10 pounds. It would have been building anticipation had it been close.
Having said that, let me ask you, should they knock off and shut down Bass Track
100% not. You've given the fans, someone in the industry told me this, and I've lived with it ever since, and it makes sense. You've given the fans the ribeye. Now you're going to say, eat the flake steak? You've given them the live all the way through the end to what it is, and the Bass Track. That's what people follow.
Okay.
You got more people who log on later in the day, I think, because you want to see the drama go down. Now you're saying, oh, we're going to take that away from you to force you to watch the weigh-in that's not nearly as exciting. What sells more product? Listen to this, Mark. What sells more product? Watching that product excel in the biggest moment, in the biggest 30 seconds of the year, when that hook holds or that bait gets the bite or that rod loads up or that boat gets them back to the weigh-in, or hearing them talk about it on a frickin' stage because you weren't able to watch it live.
Why have the weigh-in at all then?
Because it's in combination. Because there is excitement in the weigh-in.
There is no excitement. Dude, you were there. I was there.
That's just this time. Just this time.
What's gonna happen the next time?
What are they? You can't say that the Stanley Cup format is flawed because a team sweeps.
You have no idea what the outcome is.
Yeah, you do when it's 3-0 and it's 10-0 after the first inning.
No. I'm not talking about that. When you show up, you tell me another game, another sport where before a single pitch is thrown, a single puck is dropped, a single shot is made, that you know what the outcome is.
LSU, Oklahoma in the national semifinal.
Dude, don't even go there.
That was a joke, Mark.
It doesn't exist. That is the difference. Now, you're dead on where most of the eyeballs are. So it is a complex situation of which do you focus on where the vast majority of the eyeballs are on, or do you continue the tradition of packing that arena and making it like no other event in this game?
I think you can
when it comes
both.
to the final. I don't think you can. You just proved it. We just proved it this year, dude.
Last year it was absolutely packed. There was drama on it. They had Bass Live all the way through the end, and the weigh-in was electric.
2 reasons. First time it was ever at Knoxville. Agreed. People wanted to see it. People wanted to experience.
Yeah.
All right. The second thing is there was drama. Why? Because the hometown guy was going to win the Bassmaster Classic. It is a complex situation of which decisions are going to have to be made on what is more important. The eyeballs that are watching live, because they got a lot of people watching live, all right, during the Bassmaster Classic and really during everything else, or are they going to continue to have zero drama at what was once one of the most epic final 2 minutes in this game when Ray Scott and Trip Weldon put those fish on the scale and everybody was like, what's going to happen? That doesn't exist anymore, man. It doesn't exist. It doesn't. Tell me that it does exist.
It exists just in a smaller sense because you kind of have an idea of what it is. But, you know, 50, 60% of the time, you're still going to have it come down to 2 or 3 guys, and you still have that exciting moment. Now you just know that it's between Hank Cherry and John Cruz and Brandon Lester. Before, you didn't know who it would be between because there'd be more guys in the mix. But now you still have that element.
Yeah.
It still exists because it's not exact.
It's a great discussion. All right. And right now I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if there is even a solution that needs to be out there. But what I do know is the crowds are not like they were. There is no excitement. There's very little drama.
I think you're overreacting.
And the focus is on what is taking place on the water.
Yeah.
And the expo.
Nothing wrong with that.
And the expo. I think the big focus is on the expo, dude.
I mean, I went to an Oklahoma City Thunder game, and it was a blowout game, and I was like,
"What'd you do?
Don't really get this.
You left.
Not exciting."
Did you
leave?
We
stayed till the end, but it
Why?
was just we only went to one game.
Yeah.
But you can't guarantee that every single one is going to be electric. It doesn't mean that it needs to be changed. It just means that this year the ingredients didn't come together for it to be mesmerizing, electric, exciting, and titillating.
I think
last year it did. The next year it might. So what my point is, just because I went to one Thunder game and thought it was boring, doesn't mean that Thunder basketball is boring and they need to revamp the sport of NBA basketball. It just means that I didn't hit a great game. There's other games where I'm sure the place is freaking rocking. Guy hits a 3-pointer at the end. Some guy from out of town is back in town. It's a great atmosphere. I just happened to hit it when it was kind of on a dead atmosphere. Doesn't mean that NBA basketball sucks.
Okay. All right. Good discussion. But, folks, I am perfectly mentally sound. All right. I don't want...
Oh, now we're getting deep.
The dumpster fire.
Now we're getting deep.
I like that. All right, man. Anything else? Monday, Brad's going to be in studio. What else? Anything else? Nothing. Zero.
Nothing that I got. I'm going to go fish a derby this weekend. I would really like to cash a check.
I think everybody would. All right. I'm actually going to do a little doubles tournament this weekend.
I see you were, we actually ran the John Cruz interview, and Jeffries was over there with a Dremel tool drilling out his bowling ball during
Just fine-tuning, man. Fine-tuning. That's all. Just the
God.
So we'll see how that goes. First tournament of 2020, little doubles, from a guy that I bowled juniors with back in Southern California. A long time ago. We actually bowled together. It's been 35 years.
Will it be exciting? Will anyone know the outcome before the outcome? Is it going to be live streamed, Mark?
No. It's not a PBA event or anything. It's just a little local thing. Trying to get some reps in, man. All right, that's it. I want to thank John Cruz for coming on very early this morning. And Brad Hallman in studio on Monday. And then we will also, I think we're going to have another guest on Monday. And then check out the website for the remainder of the week. That's it. Once again, I want to thank everybody that we met at the Bassmaster Classic. Great stuff. Everybody be safe. That's it. We're out of here.